Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a new edition of our program, the Nile Newsroom Live. I wish you all a happy new year, of course, 2024. In our episode, we are going to go through the political, the economic, and the sports events that are taking place in Egypt and in the whole world. A short break, and I'm going to be back with you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We start our episode with the political news as Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli stressed the significance of availability of various commodities in local markets. Madbouli urged the follow-up on the implementation of latest resolutions issued to monitor markets. The Prime Minister's remarks came during his meeting with Minister of Supply and Internal Trade, Ali Musalhi, to discuss the mechanism of monitoring markets, silo projects and ways to develop the milling sector. Also, during the meeting, the Minister of Supply and Internal Trade reviewed the mechanism of implementing the recent market control decisions regarding controlling markets and measures taken regarding the trade of some strategic projects. The minister also pointed out that a higher committee would be formed whose membership includes the Consumer Protection Agency and the General Administration of Supply and Internal Trade Police. The Central Administration for Control, as well as the Central Administration for Distribution, which will have a special technical secretariat to follow up the implementation of Cabinet's decisions. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli held another meeting on Tuesday to discuss steps to restructure the State Information Service SIS. During the meeting, Prime Minister hailed the important role played by the SIS in communicating with the outside world, which contributes in highlighting Egypt's stances in a number of important issues and crises. Premier Madbouli also said that restructuring the SIS would be made in cooperation with the Central Agency for Organization and Administration with an aim of promoting its work. The restructuring process has a number of financial, administrative and legislative aspects and will ensure the expansion of the services activities at home and abroad. Israeli occupation troops killed dozens in the north of Gaza Strip in the past days, while its aircraft and tanks stepped up strikes in the south of the Palestinian enclave. The details in the following report.
Shelling and missile strikes rocked the length of the Gaza Strip overnight into Tuesday after Israel's army warned its war against the territory's Hamas rulers will last through 2024. Occupation forces launched raids early Tuesday on Khan Yunis, southern Gaza Strip, coinciding with shelling targeting northern neighborhoods of Khan Yunis. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, nearly 3 months of conflicts have claimed almost 22,000 lives in Gaza, in addition to 56,700 injuries, most of them women and children, and devastated much of the besieged territory. Despite relentless global demands for a ceasefire, military spokesperson Daniel Gari said Monday the army was preparing for prolonged fighting, expected to last throughout this year. On Monday night into Tuesday morning, eyewitnesses reported missiles fired towards the city of Rafah in the south and shelling in refugee camps in the north. Fighting was also reported around central areas as well as the main southern city of Khan Yunis. Witnesses in northern Gaza said they'd seen Israeli forces leaving several areas in and around Gaza City, likely suggesting redeployment rather than permanent withdrawal. Israeli Defense Minister, meanwhile, said residents of some towns and villages near the Gaza border, many of which have been evacuated since October 7 attacks, will soon be able to return. Since Israel imposed a siege at the outset of the war, Gazans have been facing dire shortages of food, water, fuel and medicine, eased only by 8 trucks, about 120 of which entered. The United Nations says 85% of the territory's population has been displaced since the start of the war.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, to shed more light on the situation in Gaza Strip, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
Your Excellency, as we've just followed the previous report, the Israeli occupation forces is intensifying the raids and the strikes on the Gaza Strip. At the same time, last week, during the past days, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have said that the war on Gaza is going to continue for months. So how did you read this statement?
I expected this a long time ago because we have a very extremist government of highly extremist person, and on top of this government, a gentleman who is escaping from a trial and for the possibility of going to jail. And this war will keep him out of jail. So personally, he wants to continue. And on the national level, of course, they want to continue until they commit all the avoid all the problems of Hamas. They don't know that every child and woman and gentleman in Gaza will be another Hamas. Hamas is the right of resisting the occupation, and no people in all the whole world will accept to be occupied. So, in my opinion, we as Arabs, as Egyptians, as Palestinians, we have to expect a very, very long war, and we are. I think we are ready for that. Of course, our victims are unimaginable, but the fact of life that we have to sacrifice whatever we have in order to keep our country independent, to keep our families in the future live in free country, and nobody in the whole world can blame us for that. We have the problem that Israel, with all this capacity, is supported by the superpower, not only by weapons but also by money. $14.5 billion were there in order to keep them killing us. So we have to face this, and no people, no country would accept this situation, and we shall continue. But I am not optimistic at all in the short run, and we have to prepare ourselves for a very long war, whatever it takes.
Yes, so Your Excellency Ambassador Bayoumi, Egypt, of course, has a historical stance concerning the Palestinian cause and has always supported Palestine and the Palestinian people. And Egypt was also a part of a very important part of the truce that took place last month for 1 week as a mediator, of course. Recently, Egypt last week have announced a roadmap or a plan that it proposed in order to solve the problem and to put an end to the ceasefire. And it said that this plan is going to contain 3 stages. But Egypt said that it did not receive a reply from Israel or from Hamas until now. So how did you see this stance from Egypt?
I think that Egypt, and it's quite obvious, is the sole country who has direct relations with all the parties, whether on the Palestinian side, on the Israeli side. We are in direct contact on daily basis between Egypt and all the authorities in Israel, and we have direct contacts with the United States, with Europe, and if you follow the program of our president every day, that he is calling or receiving calls from all his counterparts all over the world. So we are in a position to mediate, and we are doing this, frankly, for the sake of peace. And to be a good mediator, we are trying to help both sides in order to come and to participate part of the cake. The theory of zero-sum game, that somebody would take 100% of the cake,
yes,
and the others to have nothing. This is not acceptable, and we shall not negotiate for that.
Yes.
And as you rightly said, we are talking about three-dimensional process. First, and the most immediate, is to help the people in Palestine to live, water, medicine, fuel, whatever it takes. Then a longer truce in order to breathe a little bit. Then the third dimension is to start negotiating on the basis of two-state solution.
Yes.
And even those who are very very friendly to Israel are saying that there isn't any future for this country, Israel, except with the solution of two states on the Palestinian land.
Yes.
Then we shall try to find what is the map which will separate the Israelis from the Palestinians.
Yes. Yes, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information, Your Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for joining us over the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break, and I'm going to be back with you. Welcome back. While Palestinian factions are going through fierce clashes with the cooperation forces, occupation forces in Gaza Strip. Hamas have announced that it succeeded in 4 days in order to destroy 71 armored vehicles totally or partially and shoot 2 drones and take over the 3rd one. This is, in addition, it said that the movement killed 16 Israeli soldiers and injuring scores. The movement said that it had carried out 42 military operations in 4 days that killed a number of occupation soldiers and also injured others. Israeli army said that an Israeli soldier was killed and 11 others were injured. 2 of them are in serious condition in clashes northern Gaza Strip. The occupation forces also announced that 8 officers and soldiers were injured during clashes in southern Gaza, including 2 in serious condition. The death toll of Israeli army rose to 180 Israeli officers and soldiers since the start of the land incursion and 500 deaths since the 7th of October. Palestinian Authority of Sudanese Affairs have announced the death of the Palestinian prisoners inside the occupation prisons in unknown conditions. The 23-year-old Palestinian prisoner has died in an Israeli jail. The prison service said on Monday, adding it was looking into the circumstances of the inmate's death. The prison service in a statement said that the man from Nablus in the occupied West Bank had died in the prison in Israel's north. He was arrested in June 2022 and later sentenced to jail time for security offenses, the statement said without naming the prisoner. The Palestinian Authority have accused Israel of executing the prisoner and added that the Megiddo prison has witnessed horrible crimes and torture against Palestinian prisoners. The Public Committee Against Torture in Israel said Abu Saba's death raises serious suspicion that the Israel prison service is being transformed from a professional incarceration body to a vindicative and punitive force. Israeli occupation troops killed 4 Palestinians during a raid in the occupied West Bank on Tuesday. The Palestinian Health Ministry said 4 Palestinians were martyred by occupation bullets in the town of Azzoun. The official Wafa news agency said that the men were shot dead when clashes erupted as Israeli troops raided the town. The report said that Israeli occupation soldiers fired live ammunition, stun grenades and tear gas at the residents during the raid. Wafa reported that Israeli troops searched homes and businesses and took surveillance footage from several shops. Moreover, Israeli forces made 7 arrests in the West Bank overnight, the Israeli army said, adding that more than 2,550 people have been arrested in the territory since the Gaza war erupted. While senior Hamas official Saleh al-Aruri was killed in the Israeli drone strike on Beirut's southern suburbs on Dahiyah on Tuesday night. The Israeli drone, which struck a Hamas office, also killed other 3 people and injured a number of others. Aruri was a senior official in Hamas, but was known to be deeply involved in its military affairs. Hezbollah has been exchanging near daily fire with Israel across Lebanon's southern frontier since the eruption of the Israeli-Hamas war in Gaza in early October. Israeli air strikes and shelling have killed more than 100 Hezbollah fighters and nearly 24 civilians, including children, elderly and several journalists. Turkish police detained 33 people suspected of spying for Israel's Mossad intelligence service and of targeting foreigners living in Turkey, Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said on Tuesday. Last month, Turkish officials warned Israel of serious consequences if it tried to hunt down members of the militant group Hamas living outside Palestinian territories, including in Turkey. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan warned that would be a mistake. Turkey, unlike most of the Western allies and some Arab nations, does not classify Hamas as a terrorist organization. Police raided 57 locations in 8 provinces as part of an investigation dubbed Operation Ma, launched by the Istanbul Prosecutors Counter-Terrorism Bureau and the MIT Intelligence Agency. He said on a social media platform X that the suspects were believed to be aiming to identify, monitor, assault and kidnap foreign nationals living in Turkey. The state-run Anadolu news agency said the authorities were seeking 13 others. Asked about the arrests, Israeli Prime Minister's office and the Foreign Ministry did not immediately comment. Turkey has harshly criticized Israel for its bombardment of Gaza in its war with Hamas, with Erdogan and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu publicly exchanging barbs last week. An armed drone was shot down on Tuesday over Erbil airport in northern Iraq, where U.S. and other international forces are stationed. The Iraqi semi-autonomous Kurdistan Region's Security Agency, Kurdistan Counterterrorism, said in a statement an armed drone fired by illegal militia against Erbil airport was shot down at 9:52 a.m. Iraqi time. It was not clear whether the failed attack caused any damage or casualties, since the sources said the sources. The incident also followed the shooting down of a drone over Erbil airport by air defenses systems on Sunday evening. A group called Islamic Resistance in Iraq said it was behind that attack. U.S. and international forces based in Iraq and across the border in Syria has been on high alert amid dozens of attacks on their bases since the Israeli aggression on Gaza. A Syrian military statement said an Israeli occupation airstrike early on Tuesday that came from the direction of the Golan Heights, targeting positions in the outskirts of Damascus, caused some material damage. The incident was reported by the Syrian state agency SANA, which said there was no immediate comment from Israeli officials. Since the 7th of October reprisal attack by the Palestinian Hamas group on Israeli occupation enclaves, the Israelis have escalated strikes on targets in the Syria, including Syrian army, air defenses and some Syrian forces. Well, Russia on Tuesday rained missiles on Ukraine's two main cities, killing 4 people and injuring dozens, while 250,000 consumers in the capital region were left without power in near freezing temperatures. The attacks on the capital Kyiv and the northern city of Kharkiv came less than 24 hours after Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow would intensify strikes. Ukraine's Interior Minister Igor Khrimenko said 2 people were killed in the Kyiv region. National Energy Company Ukrainigro said 250,000 consumers were without electricity in Kyiv and surrounding areas after the strikes. Temperatures in the region were hovering around 3 degrees Celsius. The head of Kharkiv, Oleg Sinyubov, said 1 woman was killed in the northeastern city in attacks denounced Tuesday by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky as Russian terror. Kyiv authorities said missiles caused fires in a supermarket building, houses and a market. Strikes in Kharkiv wounded over 40 people and damaged multi-story buildings, said the head of the city's military administration. The Ukrainian Air Force said that Russia was launching Kinzhal missiles in a sign of growing concern. Poland on Tuesday scrambled 4 F-16 fighter jets to its borders with Ukraine to protect its airspace. During the last wave of deadly attacks on Ukraine on Friday, Poland said a Russian missile had passed through its airspace. Tuesday's attacks came after an escalation in the war in recent days. Japanese rescuers battled the clock and powerful aftershocks Tuesday to find survivors of the New Year's Day earthquake that killed at least 48 people and caused widespread destruction. Details in the following report.
The 7.5 magnitude quake that rattled Ishikawa prefecture on the main island of Honshu triggered tsunami waves more than 1 meter high, caused a major fire and tore apart roads. Local authorities put the death toll at 48, but the number was expected to rise as rescuers combed through the rubble. Aerial news footage showed the terrifying scale of a fire that ripped through an old market area, where a 7-story commercial building also collapsed. Quake damage impaired rescue efforts to put out the blaze. Almost 33,000 households were without power in the region, which saw temperatures touch freezing overnight, according to the local energy provider. Many cities were left without running water. The U.S. Geological Survey said the quake had a magnitude of 7.5. Japan's meteorological agency measured it at 7.6 and said it was one of more than 210 to shake the region through Tuesday evening. Several strong jolts were felt early on Tuesday, including one measuring 5.6. Earlier, waves of at least 1.2 meters high hit Ujima, and a series of smaller tsunamis were reported elsewhere. Warnings of much larger waves proved unfounded, and on Tuesday, Japan lifted all tsunami warnings. Images on social media showed cars, houses and bridges in Ishikawa wobbling violently as terrified people cowered in shops and train stations. Houses collapsed and huge cracks appeared in roads, whilst others were hit by landslides. Forecasters warned rains could further loosen soil on hillsides. A fire in Wajima engulfed as many as 200 structures, with people evacuated in the dark, some with blankets and others carrying babies. Meanwhile, the quake shook apartments in the capital, Tokyo, about 300 kilometers away, where a public New Year's Day gathering event was cancelled. Overnight, about 1,400 people were stuck in suspended bullet trains. Around 1,000 others were stuck in local express trains for almost 24 hours. About 500 people were also stranded at Noto's damaged airport, with access roads blocked and the runway riddled with cracks. Japan experiences hundreds of earthquakes every year, and the vast majority cause no damage.
Welcome back now with the economy news. As Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Engineer Tariq Al-Mullah, said that the Egyptian petroleum sector has a great investment opportunity that should be made benefit of. This came as during signing a memorandum of understanding between Abu Qir Company for Agricultural Nutrients Company and ABB International Company, as well as MBS Company and Project Company. The memorandum comes due to Abu Qir's company keenness to cope with the international tendency to eliminate the environmental problems, especially the carbon emissions, the green hydrogen and renewable electricity needed to produce green ammonia, which considered a raw material for producing fertilizer. The memo comes as also to make use of the renewable energy to decrease the consumption of natural gas. Egypt's stock market indices indexed higher at close on Tuesday, boosted by purchasing operations by Arab and local investment funds and foreign investors, while foreign Arab and local corporations went into selling operations. Capital market for companies listed in the bourse gained about 34 billion pounds. The benchmark EGX 30 index added 2.44% to end the dealings at 2,555.94 points. The equal weighted EGX 70 also went up by 3.6%, reaching 5,640.68 points and the 8,101.12 points. While Egypt's membership in the BRICS group was activated on Monday, South Africa in the BRICS meeting announced that the BRICS club of emerging nations would welcome 6 new members, including Egypt at the start of 2024. The BRICS bloc previously included Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, but is set to double with Saudi Arabia joining the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Iran and Ethiopia as new members. Europe's main stock markets rose at the open Tuesday, the first trading day of the year, with investors predicting several cuts to global interest rates in 2024 as inflation cools. London's benchmark FTSE 100 index won 0.4%, having underperformed rivals last year. In the Eurozone, the Paris CAC 40 jumped 0.6% and Frankfurt's DAX index advanced 0.6%. European stock markets opened higher on Tuesday as traders bet on central banks cutting rates in 2024. Oil prices gained after a naval clash in the Red Sea, and Chinese stocks were weighed down by mixed economic data. Global stock markets rose overall in 2023, having gained particularly in the last 2 months of the year, while bond yields fell. This upbeat market sentiment continued on Tuesday as traders returned from end-of-year holidays. The MSCI World Equity Index was steady, down by less than 0.1% on the day, data pointing to the sub-dubbed business confidence in China for 2024 weighted on Chinese assets during Asian trading. China's manufacturing sector came under pressure from weak demand in 2023 with a property downturn, geopolitical factors and tight-fisted consumers all waiting on the past pandemic recovery. China's onshore blue chip index was down 1.3% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng index fell 1.5%. The US dollar index was up around 0.1% at 101.44, holding relatively steady after it lost roughly 2% last year on bets that U.S. rates will come down. The U.S. 10-year Treasury yield, which gained overall in 2023, rose to 3.925%. In Europe, flash inflation figures for the Eurozone are due on Friday, which RBC capital markets analysts have said in a note are likely to be the most significant additional data point prior to the January ECB meeting. Eurozone government bond yields rose with the benchmark 10-year German yield up 8 basis points on the day at 2.106%. The dollar crept higher on the first trading day of the year as attention turned to economic data with a week that may provide clues on the Federal Reserve's next moves, while Bitcoin surged ahead of $45,000 for the first time since April 2022. The dollar index, which measures the U.S. currency against 6 rivals, fell 2% in 2023, spanning 2 years of gains. It was up 0.59% as investors weighted the prospect of the Fed cutting rates this year. The dollar's ascent weighted on the Japanese yen the most, with the Asian currency down 0.35%, having a slight 7% in 2023. Still, traders are pricing in 158 of cuts by the ECB this year, while the BOE is also expected to cut rates by 144 BPS in 2024. The euro was down 0.13%, including away from the 5-month peak of $11,395 in touched last week. The signal currency gained 3% last year, its first yearly gain since 2020. Sterling was up 0.5% on the day, having clocked its strongest performance last year since 2017 with a 5% gain. Elsewhere, the Australian dollar was up 0.35% at $0.68335. The New Zealand dollar was little changed at $0.63155. Welcome back now with the sports news. As Egypt's national football team, coach Vitora have announced the final lineup for the African Cup of Nations AFCON, which will kick off on January 13th and will last until February the 11th in Ivory Coast. The Egyptian national team is playing in Group B alongside Ghana, Mozambique and Cape Verde. 28 players excluded from the list, including Hussein El Shahat, Abdullah El Said and Ramadan Subhi. While Mohamed Salah's second half brace made up for a missed penalty as Liverpool kicked off the new year through 3 points clear atop the Premier League standings with a 4-2 victory over Newcastle United at the rain-drenched Anfield on Monday. Jurgen Klopp's team, who began the day level with Aston Villa on points, now have 45 from 20 games. Villa have 42 points, while Manchester City, who have played one fewer game, are third on 40. Newcastle are ninth on 29. The 31-year-old Salah, who has 151 Premier League goals for Liverpool, changed his boots and the switch paid off. His 2 goals moved him even with City's Erling Haaland as joint top scorers with 14 goals. He is the joint up on assists level with Villa's Oli, while Watkins on 8. Liverpool dominated the game, and Salah, who had fired a first half penalty straight at the goalkeeper Martin Dubravka, finally broke the deadlock in the 49th minute when Darwin Nunes cut the ball across 2 of the Egyptian for the close range finish. Well, welcome back. Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, Mr. Abdulaziz Abu Hamr, the sports analyst. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you and to everyone, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and to your family, sir. Well, Mr. Abdulaziz, now concerning the match with for Mohamed Salah yesterday, Mohamed Salah have missed a goal, and after this he made 2 goals. So give us, how did you follow this match?
Well, as everyone knows, it was the last match for almost the last match for Mohamed Salah with Liverpool before joining the Egypt national team for the AFCON Cup Nations Cup, which, as you said, is starting soon. Salah is, as everyone knows, is an iconic global figure and global player, and he's 100% played in Egypt. Yes, it was a very, very, very interesting match, Liverpool against Newcastle, and as you said, Salah missed a penalty. But he scored 2 goals and made 1 assist, 1 terrific assist in fact. And it was another very important game and a very interesting game for Salah. He scored 2 goals and made 1 assist, and it was, as a very good goodbye for Liverpool fans before he comes back to Egypt. It was a very tough match, to be honest, and the 3 points took Liverpool again to the top of the top flight Premier League, the table of the Premier League, and they're now leading the table, the Premier League table. And it's very, very, very good thing for Mohamed Salah. Even he gave a statement to the English newspaper or English media that we cannot imagine how to we imagine how to go to the AFCON without being on the top league as Liverpool.
Yes.
It was really a saga, a very good, a very beautiful match from a beautiful Salah, who is a representative and an ambassador of Egypt in the Premier League and in the entire world. Yes.
Yes, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information, Mr. Abdulaziz Abu Hamar, sports analyst. Thank you very much for joining us over the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break and I'm going to be back with you.
Most mystique, Pharaoh fell from heaven wearing number 11, makes their fan. God's weak, Liverpool's Messiah set an anthem on fire. Fight against Egyptian diamonds, finds you in the rough, but banging in for without trying, keep us, just keep up. 'Cause nobody is better than the king. When the whole of football singing Mo Salah, he's causing havoc every single week. With every scouser rocking, you're never gonna stop him, my boy.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode of our program, Newsroom. My name is Amal Mukhtar. I really had the pleasure to be with you. Thank you for watching.